So I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while now, in which I take fan questions from Twitter and answer them on the show. I didn't quite find the time with so much cricket going on, but with this break in test matches, I've decided to finally go through with this. So fan Q&A on this volume of CRIQAZI Diaries.
Have a look at that, miles up, oh, it's nearly taken someone out the stands. That was a flat six right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members, and it went like a rocket. Well, we get to 24.
So Zakaria Agha asks, what can Ramis Raja do in the short term and long term to improve our test team? Well, Zakaria, I can't speak specifically about test cricket over here. I mean, potentially, Ramis Raja could go to the bargaining table and make sure Pakistan play at least more than 6 tests a year. But that would be more of a long-term gain, I think, because the current World Test Championship cycle has been decided. But if we just look at it generally, Rambo, throughout his playing days and his commentary days, he's always represented Pakistan with the utmost integrity. And he garners respect from every corner, every small pocket of the cricketing world. So I hope he uses that influence, leverages his existing relationships to improve Pakistan cricket and maybe get Pakistan more competitive cricket over the years. And, I think when Ramis Raja speaks, people listen. So that's one thing. And then, of course, if we talk about it generally, in the short term, I feel like Ramis Raja, he's been such a big advocate for drop-in pitches that Pakistan or PCB, in fact, should invest in drop-in pitches so that players are better prepared for foreign tours and limited overs cricket in general, because a lot of it is played on drop-in pitches now. So that's one thing in the short term. And then in the long term, I feel that, he's always talked about how cricket should be improved at the grassroots level. And I would love for him to do something over there, come up with some sort of hierarchy where, you have school cricket, through which you can graduate into first class cricket, and more people get an opportunity to be part of Pakistan's cricketing structure. So he's an educated person, he's an influential person, and he's very bold when it comes to his visions. So I think this is going to be his biggest challenge, how he can improve Pakistan's cricket at a grassroots level. And then also he's always spoken about the fact that he wants Pakistan to play aggressive and fearless cricket. Like he's an advocate for that brand in particular. So let's see what he can do in the lower echelons of Pakistan cricket to help make that a regular feature at the top levels as well. So those are just the things I think he can contribute in. But I have no doubt that Ramis Raja could definitely succeed over here, because he's been an honest man and he's served Pakistan cricket with the utmost sincerity. Zain Azmi asks, should Pakistan's board accept Andy Flower as a coach? Well, I think, Zain, that's more of a question for Andy Flower. Would he like to coach Pakistan or not internationally? Because he already coaches so many franchise teams in the T20 circuit in the world. Of course, he also coaches Multan Sultans, and he does it successfully. So the plus points over here would be that he already has an existing relationship with Pakistan cricket because of Multan Sultans. And even before that, because Grant Flower, his brother, was Pakistan's batting coach for the longest time. But the bigger plus point over here is that Andy Flower is a proven asset. He took England all the way to number 1 in the test rankings, and he has a bit of a reputation as a taskmaster. And those sort of coaches, they do really well with Pakistan. Mickey was a bit of a taskmaster as well, and he did well in the limited overs arena. Test matches, not so much. But yeah, I would welcome Andy Flower's appointment. I think he would be the top candidate, and I'm sure PCB would be looking at him as well, given this management, if they fail at the T20 World Cup, which is in October. But I don't think anything could happen before that. I think it's too soon, and they wouldn't want to shake things up this close to a World Cup. But I would definitely welcome it. It's more of a question of whether Andy Flower would want that sort of commitment or not. Saad Nasser asks, with New Zealand tour just a few weeks away, should Pakistan try different combinations, or should they stick with their most likely 11 in preparation for the T20 World Cup? Very good question, Saad. I personally feel like they have 7 T20 internationals in the lead up to the T20 World Cup. 5 were against New Zealand and 2 were against England, all of them at home. I think that they should definitely try different combinations, because that was something that Pakistan needed to do on the West Indies tour. Unfortunately, COVID and rain didn't let that happen. They did have that mindset. So I think they should definitely tinker around with the lineup in these 7 games, and their aim, more than even winning these series, should be that by the 5th or 6th or even 7th game, they have their combination, their starting 11 locked down for the T20 World Cup. Because look, the team that gets selected for these tours, surely that team will go to the UAE for the World Cup. So then it's only a matter of selecting the starting 11 and, figuring that bit out. And I think their focus should be to figure that bit out, and they can experiment in the first 3, 4, 5 games, but by the 6th or 7th game, I would like for them to have sorted that out. They should know exactly what combination they're going to go with in the T20 World Cup before it starts, because Pakistan has a habit of going into tournaments not knowing their best combination. The 2019 World Cup is a prime example, and there are not enough games over here to realize your best combination midway through the tournament. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And for everyone who doesn't know, Saad Nasser actually runs a YouTube channel himself called Teddy, and he does a podcast on football. So any football lovers out there, do check out The Huddle. I'm going to leave a link in the description so that you can do that. And yeah, it's a fantastic show. I personally watch it. So yeah, do check that out. Usman Khan asks, will Malik and or Hafiz play in the T20 World Cup? And what is Kohli's future in the Indian team as a captain and in different formats? So for your first question, Usman, I think Hafiz will play in the World Cup because he's been with the side for a while, and even though he's been off colour this year, he had a stellar 2020 with the bat. And this year, even though he's not been amongst the runs, he has pitched in with the ball, which could be very crucial on UAE wickets. So I think he will retain his spot, and I think he should. As for Shoaib Malik, look, Pakistan have tried out everyone, all those youngsters in Hussain Tallat, Iftikhar, Khushdil Shah, Asif Ali. I'm probably even forgetting a few names over here, but you get the drill. And none of them have quite been able to cement their spot. So I think this close to a World Cup, especially in Asian conditions where Shoaib Malik succeeds, I think that Pakistan should select both Hafiz and Malik. Then they can decide whether they want to play both of them in the same game or not. But I think Malik should be on that plane. And yeah, I mean, it's the last dance for both of these stalwarts. You know, they're both, I think, 40 plus now. So this is their moment. They've always been those sort of players who've been really good but never quite world class. But yeah, I think that both of them should be boarding that plane. Whether they do or not, that's a different question. I'm fairly positive though that Hafiz is definitely going to be in Pakistan's T20 World Cup team. As for Virat Kohli, I don't think anything will change. Virat Kohli, the brand, is far too big for anyone else to make that call. Virat Kohli will leave things, whether that be captaincy or cricket, probably on his own terms. And people will argue that, you know, he still has a really good record as captain. I think that Virat Kohli, the leader, is solid. You know, he's brought in a great culture in the Indian team, giving you 120%, trusting in your ability. Everyone's big on fitness, so I credit him for that. But as a captain and as a tactician, I am critical. I think he's prone to making a few calls which are honestly howlers. I don't think anything will change though. Everything will remain the same, and Indian cricket is Virat Kohli. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I guess only time will tell. But, you know, he's brought a fair amount of success to India. So I think he will continue. So as a batsman, he needs the runs. But again, too big a brand to drop, right? So I think Virat Kohli, nothing's going to change for him. Fatboy Slim asks, hearing that the appointment of Rambo means he'll be bringing in his own chief selector, if so, do you see any changes in the squad going into the World T20? Thoughts on Shan Masood as a member of the top order to be tried in the New Zealand tour and then the World T20. So first things first, I don't think Rambo will make any drastic or radical changes as soon as he comes into office. I think he's going to wait a bit, at least till after the World T20, and then shake things up. And, you know, potentially that could mean Mohammad Wasim losing his job. And I can see Rambo making a lot of big changes. Maybe it spells the end of the career for Hafiz and Malik. And I personally feel like he'll wait it out, because if he doesn't, it might be too controversial. So, you know, Rambo's era might truly start after the T20 World Cup, but of course those are my own thoughts. For all you know, he comes in tomorrow, changes Mohammad Wasim, and Hafiz and Malik are gone. So yeah, I think if that happens, Hafiz and Malik are not going to the T20 World Cup. But anyway, to your second question, Shan Masood, what I've always been impressed with Shan Masood is that he's such a hard worker, disciplined and diligent cricketer. We've seen him, being dropped from the test side before, and his response has always been so positive. He goes and works on all of the chinks in his armor. You know, he even hired a personal coach, a batting coach in England, and worked on his game. And then when he came back to test cricket, we saw just how good he was. Unfortunately, he got 4 ducks, but that sort of blemish does often cost you your spot in the national team. But of late, I've seen Shan Masood do really well in limited overs cricket, especially T20 cricket, and he's started to hit a lot more sixes. You know, his strike rate has gone up, and he's become somewhat of a hitter. So good on him that he's upped his game so much in limited overs cricket, and I definitely feel that he has a chance in the future. Maybe not right now, because he's a little lower down the pecking order as far as the top order is concerned. But you know, if he has another fantastic PSL, he was pretty good for Multan Sultans this time around, but if he really impresses in PSL 7, then I think he's in for a fair shot over here, because Pakistan's top order worries are always a constant. Ibad Beg asks, how would you rate Pakistan team's performance so far for the year, and what were your impressions of the recently concluded KPL? Well, Ibad, it's been quite a hot and cold year for Pakistan cricket. I think they started off really well. They won that home series against South Africa, both the Test series and the ODI series. And they've had a pretty good year in Test cricket, haven't they? They've won 5 out of 6 Test matches. And then even their tour to South Africa was a great one. And tour to Zimbabwe, they lost a T20 that they shouldn't have. And Pakistan, it's never acceptable for Pakistan cricket to lose to minnows. So that's going to hurt. Definitely. And then also the England tour was one to forget, wasn't it? They only managed to win 1 game out of 6. So that was a big failure. And then against the West Indies, I'd say they were pretty good, but then they really should have won that Test match. So keeping those things in mind, I'm going to give Pakistan around a 70 out of 100 on the report card. They've had a decent year, but it could have been better. It should have been better. And as for the KPL, I wasn't able to follow much of the tournament. I'm happy for the people of that area that they got to witness live cricket and some of their favorite cricketers, and that Muzaffarabad Stadium definitely has a future, so I'm glad that they got to play over there. But as for the league, I mean, I'm not a big fan of this proliferation of T20 cricket, There seem to be too many T20 tournaments happening domestically and everywhere, and seems like that's where they're pumping all the money. I would like the money to be distributed more evenly across formats, Throw in some ODI tournaments over there on the domestic level. Host that in the Muzaffarabad Stadium. I don't have a problem with that. But, you already have the PSL. Why bring in another T20 competition? So, in that regard, I'm not a big fan of the KPL. But, it seemed like a successful tournament, and I hope that some of those cricketers who are indigenous to that area got some opportunity to showcase their talent. Overall, good, but in the grand scheme of things, I think another T20 tournament, it hurts Pakistan cricket more than it benefits it. Hatib Khan asks, are you satisfied with the coaching staff, and do you think there should be any changes to it before the T20 World Cup? If you ask me overall, I'm more disappointed than I am satisfied with this coaching staff. Number one, I wasn't a fan of the fashion in which it was brought in. I thought Mickey should have been given a little bit longer to prove himself. Test cricket he failed, but I think he did a world of good to Pakistan cricket in the limited overs arena. And I respect Misbah-ul Haq. He took over as captain in Test cricket at a very tumultuous time for Pakistan cricket, after the spot fixing scandal. And he eventually took that team to the world #1 ranking, and he held the Test mace. So we're all indebted to him. And no doubt that Misbah-ul Haq has been a great servant to Pakistan cricket. But that doesn't mean that you skip all of your coaching badges and don't go through the hard yards that are necessary and just come in as coach and chief selector at the same time. I thought that was a very, very bad decision, and it definitely impacted him as well. It's not easy to do both of those jobs. Almost impossible to do both of those jobs in tandem. So I think I know I wasn't a fan of that. And then, the results haven't been as consistent as you would like them to be. I think they should be retained though till the end of the T20 World Cup, and then based on their performance in the T20 World Cup, a decision should be made. But I don't want to shake things up too drastically before that. I don't think that would benefit Pakistan cricket and improve their chances at the T20 World Cup. I think they've been going through with this system for 2 years now, and might as well wait till the end of this term, which will come after the T20 World Cup. So fingers crossed, if they make the semis, I think this management might be retained. Otherwise, I'm sure that they will be sacked. Hasnain Kadir asks, don't you think the bowlers are on the receiving end since the advent of T20? If yes, then what role can the cricketing fraternity play in balancing that? What is your take on the standard number of matches being played by all teams? Fantastic question, Hasnain. I think that's the best one we've had all night. I agree with you. I think you have a point over there that since the advent of T20 cricket, the game has become very, very batsman friendly, and the balance between bat and ball is not even anymore. And I do agree that needs to happen because, games which are closer and tighter are the ones in which the bowlers have something in it for them as well. For starters, I think that longer boundaries could be a solution, and then also, 2 new balls in white ball cricket that kind of killed the game because it took reverse swing out of the equation. So I think that they should bring back just 1 ball in which each team uses in their bowling innings, and reverse swing adds a bit of drama to games, and I would like to revisit that sort of drama in the white ball arena. So I think those are two things that the governing bodies could look at. And I 100% agree with you on your second point as well. The fact that every team plays a different amount of matches just doesn't seem fair. And I can't think of another sport in which this happens, you know. In an ideal world, every single team should play the same amount of matches and then they should be judged and ranked. But we don't live in a perfect world, right? It's an imperfect world and it's a capitalistic world. So wherever the money is, that's where you'll see the longer series, and wherever it is, there isn't. You're going to see 2 test match series, and that's just unfortunate, and it's a reality very difficult to stomach, but what choice do we have? Abu Bakr Agha asks, can you please give Ehsan Mani's work a summary and review? Abu Bakr, I think Ehsan Mani's done a fairly good job over here. I mean, he's a top diplomat. He's been ICC president also in the past. And I think his PR game during his tenure was really, really good. I mean, you saw the whole PSL, the entirety of it being hosted in Pakistan. And then in a pandemic year, Pakistan actually ended up playing so much cricket. I think this credit must go to Ehsan Mani and Wasim Khan for that. And then also the fact that so many teams are now coming to tour Pakistan. You saw South Africa's team come for a full tour. Now New Zealand is coming, followed by England coming for 2 T20s. And then England, New Zealand and Australia are also scheduled to play full test series in Pakistan. So full credit to Ehsan Mani over there. As far as the team's performance is concerned during this time, well, we were 6th in ODIs and we remain 6th. In Test cricket, we were 7th and now we've gone up to 5th. So he's done well, I guess, in that regard. But T20 cricket, we went from number 1 to number 4. So I'd say Ehsan Mani gets a passing grade. I think his job was less to do with the team's performance and more to do with everything around it. And I think he's done a pretty good job over there. And like I said, his diplomacy is on point. And he's represented Pakistan really well. And definitely, I think Pakistan cricket has benefited, especially with cricket coming home during Ehsan Mani's tenure. Ali Muzaffar asks, do you agree with Imran Khan's model of our domestic structure consisting of limited teams? 6 teams to be exact, and no, I do not, Ali. I like the idea of having a competition with you know, the top teams in your country, and I'm completely fine with the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy Premier competition being just 6 teams. But what I'd like to see is more divisions below that, a proper hierarchy and a relegation and promotion system. So that will ensure that the best 6 teams in Pakistan will be playing the top draw competition, and that also people who can't make the cut, or cricketers who can't make the cut for the top draw competition, they have other divisions to play in. It's absolutely necessary, because in a country with 22 crore people, there are of course so many more cricketers and there's so much talent that concentrating that talent into 6 teams could hurt Pakistan, and it definitely will. And you know, so many cricketers have lost their jobs, so it's actually deterring people from playing cricket. And what you need is a hierarchical structure from the top division to all the way down to maybe school level or something, and that, you know, could encourage people to come and play cricket, of course at the professional level, and choose cricket as a profession. And that's something that's considered as a risk in Pakistan. So that's what needs to change, and I think just having 6 first-class teams and then competing against each other defeats that purpose. But I will say one thing that is successful about the system is that there are no departments. So, you know, as a spectator, I don't care about HBL versus PIA, but I do care about Sindh versus Central Punjab, for example. And I have been following Quaid-e-Azam Trophy. Probably have never done that before in my life. So that is one advantage, but I think just adding more divisions to it will increase the number of jobs, and it will just ensure that the best teams compete at the top level. Ali Khalid asks, do you expect Haris Rauf and Mohammad Hasnain to come good in the T20 World Cup? Or is there still space for Wahab Riaz? Do you see Ramis making any changes in the management before the World Cup? Well, I think that I've answered your second question already in this video. I don't think that Ramis Raja will make any drastic or radical change before the World Cup. After the World Cup, I think he definitely will. And as for Haris Rauf and Mohammad Hasnain, look, Shaheen Shah Afridi and Hassan Ali will play every game. They are your frontline seamers. And as for the third seamer in T20 cricket, you know, you've got a few options over there. You've got Mohammad Wasim Jr., you've got Haris Rauf, you've got Mohammad Hasnain. And I feel like this upcoming series versus New Zealand and then the 2 T20s versus England will give us a better idea of who is best suited to be that third seamer. Wahab Riaz, I am a fan of, don't get me wrong. And he was really good for Pakistan in the 2019 World Cup and generally is good for Pakistan in World Cups. But Wahab has been going for quite a few runs in the CPL. So if he performs in the CPL, I think he's definitely in with a shout. Or should be, because he can also hit. He can hit the ball big. So I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I think Wahab needs to give some performances to stake his claim. For now, I think the third seamer is a luck of the draw, toss of the coin between Haris Rauf, Mohammad Hasnain and Wasim Jr. Wasim Jr. Is the standout sort of contestant in this battle right now because he can bat a bit. But honestly, I don't understand why Pakistan need a third seamer in the UAE. In those conditions, just play the extra spinner and I would be completely fine with that. Ahmed Faruqi asks, who will be in your starting 11 in the T20 World Cup game against India? Ahmed, I think it's a bit too soon for that. Like, we'd want to see these 7 upcoming T20s and then we can, jot down our 11s or who we think should play. But let's hypothetically assume that Pakistan were playing India tomorrow in the T20 World Cup. I would go with the following team. I would open with Fakhr and Rizwan. I would have Babar 1 down and then Sohaib Maqsood 2 down. Then at 3 down and 4 down, 5 and 6, I would have Mohammad Hafiz and Shoaib Malik. And then thereon, I would just have a lot of all-rounders in there. I would have Shadab Khan, so that's 7. I would have Mohammad Nawaz, so that's 8. And that leaves me with 3 spots for bowlers. Hassan Ali is 1, who's also an all-rounder at this point. And then Shaheen Shah Afridi is 1. And the last person would either be a third seamer, which I'm not too inclined towards. I mean, I like Haris Rauf, but he's been going for plenty. Hasnain has been improving, but I don't think he's quite yet there. And Wasim Jr. can, hit the ball hard and he's a big hitter, but then again, he can go for runs in his bowling too, although he's promising. Quite promising. I would go with Usman Qadir to end that lineup. I would go with the extra spinner. I don't think in the UAE you need more than 8 overs of seam bowling, and that's my rationale. That's a wrap for volume 35, folks. Let me know if you liked this fan Q&A session and whether you'd like to see more of these in the future. Of course, do like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon in order to be notified about my latest videos. I'll catch you during the India and England test, the 4th test at the Oval. I'll try to make a video every day. But till then, that's all for now, guys. Kazi off the mic.
Have a look at that, miles up, oh, it's nearly taken someone out the stands. That was a flat 6 right under the stand there, the George Giffen stand, up into the members.